Daniel lived in a small, quiet town where nights were usually peaceful. The streets emptied early, and the only sounds after dark were the rustle of trees and the occasional bark of a stray dog. He had moved here 6 months ago to escape the noise of the big city. He wanted silence, a slower life, and time to think about where his future was going. He had noticed his neighbor, Soraya, on the very first day he shifted into his new house. She lived in the house across the narrow street. Unlike other neighbors who sometimes waved or came to greet him, Soraya kept to herself. She rarely left her home during the day. At night, however, Daniel would sometimes see a faint light glowing in her windows, as if she was awake while the rest of the town slept. She was unusual, not because of anything frightening, but because she carried an air of mystery. She was tall, graceful, and young. Her features were soft and delicate, with a kind of natural beauty that didn't need makeup or effort. Yet she always avoided long conversations. A polite nod was usually all she offered. For Daniel, she was just the mysterious neighbor who wanted privacy. He respected that and never asked questions until the night it happened. It was exactly midnight. Daniel had been reading a book in his living room. The air outside was calm and the clock ticked softly on the wall. Suddenly he heard it, 3 slow knocks at the door, knock, knock, knock. The sound made him sit upright. Nobody visited him at this hour. His town was not the kind where people knocked on doors in the middle of the night. For a moment he thought it might be some emergency. He walked carefully to the door and opened it a little. There she was, Soraya, his neighbor. But something was different. Her face was pale, her eyes wide and filled with worry. She stood very still, her voice almost a whisper. "Daniel," she said softly. "Please, I need your help." Daniel froze. His quiet, distant neighbor had never spoken to him like this before. He didn't know what to say. "Is something wrong?" he asked carefully. Her voice trembled. "Yes, but you must promise me not to turn me away." There was something desperate in her eyes. It wasn't the kind of desperation one shows for small problems. This was deeper, heavier, like her very life depended on it. Daniel's instinct told him to be cautious. It was midnight after all. Yet something about her presence, her fragile voice, made it impossible to shut the door. "All right," he said. "Come inside." She stepped in slowly, her hands trembling. She looked around his living room as if making sure nobody else was there. Daniel noticed how pale her skin was, almost too pale to be natural. Her movements were weak, as though she had lost all her strength. He offered her a chair. "Sit down. Tell me what's going on." Soraya hesitated, as though she was afraid of speaking. Then she leaned forward, her voice barely above a whisper. "There is something you don't know about me. I'm not like everyone else here." Daniel frowned. "What do you mean?" She looked straight into his eyes. "I'm not from this world. I am not human." The words hit him like cold water. He stared at her, unsure whether she was serious or joking. Her expression was grave, her voice steady, even though she looked exhausted. "You're saying you're an alien?" Daniel asked carefully. She nodded. "Yes, I came here many months ago. I tried to live quietly. I tried not to draw attention. But now I cannot hide anymore. My time is running out." Daniel was silent. His logical mind wanted to dismiss it, but her trembling figure told a different story. If it were madness, it was a convincing one. He leaned back slowly. "And what does that have to do with me?" Her lips pressed together before she whispered the words that changed everything. "I came here tonight because I cannot survive alone anymore. My kind, we need energy, a special life force to live. Without it, we weaken and fade. I thought I could live without taking it here, but I was wrong. If I don't find help, I will not last much longer." Daniel's heart pounded. The pieces began to connect. Her pale skin, her strange hours, the way she avoided the sun. "You're saying you're like a vampire?" he asked. Her expression darkened, though her eyes softened with sadness. "Your people would call it that. But I am not evil. I do not wish to harm anyone. I came here to escape the wars of my kind, to live quietly. But now if I don't share in the energy of another, I will die." Daniel felt a chill. He had never expected anything like this when he moved to this quiet town. He didn't know if he should believe her, but her words carried truth in their desperation. "So why me?" he finally asked. "Why did you come to my door?" Soraya closed her eyes for a moment, then opened them again. "Because I have studied humans since I came here. Your energy is different from others. It is strong, resilient. Unlike other species, humans can share their life force without dying. I believe you can help me, and if I am right, you will survive the process." Daniel swallowed hard. The room felt colder, heavier. She wasn't threatening him, but the weight of her words pressed on him. He thought of how lonely she must have been, hiding her identity, fighting for survival in silence. She could have attacked him, but instead she knocked and begged for help. He looked at her trembling hands. "You came here because you didn't want to hurt anyone," he said slowly. Her eyes softened. "Yes, I came because I believed you might understand. You are quiet, kind. You see people for who they are, not for what others say they are. That is why I chose you." The room was silent except for the ticking clock. Daniel felt the weight of choice pressing down on him. He could send her away and live in safety, pretending this night never happened. Or he could believe her, trust her, and step into something far larger than himself. He studied her face again. Her soft beauty was still there, but now he could see the pain beneath it. She wasn't just his mysterious neighbor anymore. She was someone fighting against the end of her own existence. Finally, he sighed. "All right, Soraya. I don't know if I understand everything yet, but I won't turn you away. Tell me what I need to do." Her lips curved into the faintest, most fragile smile. "Thank you, Daniel. You may have just saved my life." And with those words, the midnight silence returned. But Daniel knew nothing would ever be the same again. The next morning, Daniel woke to the sunlight streaming softly through his window. For a moment, he almost thought the previous night was a dream, but the faint memory of Soraya's pale face and trembling hands reminded him it was real. He prepared coffee quietly, his mind racing. He kept replaying her words over and over. "I need your help. It is the only way I can survive." It was strange, surreal, and yet somehow he believed her. By midday, there was a soft knock at his door again. He opened it to see Soraya standing there, less fragile than last night, but still serious. "May I come in?" she asked. Daniel nodded. "Of course, sit." She did, settling in the chair he had set out for her. There was a small pause, as if she was gathering courage to speak. Then she finally began. "You must know the truth," she said. "I am not human. I am from a different world, a place far beyond your skies. My people are wanderers, travelers among the stars. We are what your legends might call vampires, but we are not monsters. We only take energy to survive, nothing more." Daniel listened, absorbing every word. He could see her sincerity. There was no trace of deceit, just honesty, and the heavy weight of survival in her voice. "Why are you here on Earth?" he asked cautiously. "I came to escape wars," she replied. "My people were hunted, believed dangerous, and scattered across the galaxy. I hoped to live quietly, away from conflict. I thought hiding would be enough. But I cannot survive alone anymore. My energy is running out. I need someone willing to share, someone I can trust." Daniel leaned back in his chair. This was more than he had expected. Not just an alien, but one seeking help from a human. The thought made him uneasy, but not because he feared harm. He feared the unknown, the vast mysterious truth of a world beyond Earth. How do you survive?" "What is this energy?" Daniel asked. "It is a life force," Soraya explained. "It is not physical food, not something you can see. It is a pure energy that sustains my being. Humans have it naturally. You can share without dying. Other species cannot. They take energy violently, but humans can give willingly, and the effect is balanced." Daniel considered her words. He had never heard anything like it. And yet, looking at her fragile frame, he felt a need to believe her, to help her. "Are there others like you here?" he asked. She shook her head. "No, I am alone. That is why I came to you. I watched. I studied. You are kind. You will not turn away when faced with the truth." Daniel was quiet. The weight of the situation pressed on him. He could reject her, live his life without knowing any of this. Or he could step forward, trust her, and help an alien being survive. "All right," he said finally. "I'll help. But I need to know. What happens next? How do we do this safely?" Soraya's eyes softened. "I will show you everything. The process is delicate. I will guide you, and you will feel only mild exhaustion, nothing fatal. But you must trust me completely. There can be no secrets, no mistakes." Daniel nodded, trying to calm his racing heart. He didn't fully understand, but he trusted her. He had to. She reached into a small bag she had brought and pulled out a device. It was unlike anything Daniel had ever seen. Slim, silver, and glowing faintly with soft light. It seemed alive, almost humming with energy. "This will help regulate the flow," she explained. "It keeps both of us safe. Without it, sharing would be dangerous for both of us." Daniel took a deep breath. "Okay, show me what to do." Over the next few hours, Soraya explained her history, her species, and their abilities. She told stories of stars and planets Daniel had never imagined. She described her people's rise and fall in distant galaxies, the wars that scattered them, and the hunters who still pursued them across space. Daniel listened, fascinated. It was incredible, terrifying, yet beautiful. He felt like he was learning secrets of the universe that no human had ever known. Finally, when he felt ready, she guided him through the first step. He would sit quietly, focus, and allow a small stream of his energy to flow to her. She explained how to control it, how to stop if anything felt wrong. Daniel closed his eyes. He felt a faint warmth as the energy flowed. Not painful, just a gentle tug like a soft breeze pulling at him. He could feel her weakening body strengthening, her color returning, her breathing becoming steadier. When it ended, Soraya opened her eyes. She looked healthier, stronger. She smiled at him, a smile full of gratitude and relief. "Thank you, Daniel," she whispered. "You have no idea what you've done for me." He nodded, feeling tired but fulfilled. Something had changed between them. Not friendship, not romance, but a trust deeper than words. He had saved a life. Not just any life, but one from the stars. But even in this quiet moment, there was a shadow over their happiness. Soraya spoke again, her tone serious. "There are hunters," she said softly. "They know I am here. They will come for me. And for anyone who helps me, we must be careful. Earth is not yet ready to know about us." Daniel's heart sank. He had expected loneliness, mystery, maybe danger, but not this. Yet he knew he could not turn back. She needed him, and now he was part of something larger than himself. "I understand," he said. "Whatever comes, we face it together." Soraya's eyes glistened. "I believed humans had courage. You are proof of that. We will survive, Daniel. But survival will not be easy. You must be ready for anything." The sun set, painting the sky in orange and purple. Daniel sat quietly, watching the first stars appear. For the first time in his life, he felt the universe was not just vast, it was alive, full of secrets, and now, full of responsibility. He thought about his quiet town, his simple life, and how it had changed in just a single night. The world beyond was calling, and he had answered. And as darkness fell over the town, Daniel knew this was only the beginning. The following night, the air in Daniel's house was heavier than usual. He could feel the tension, the quiet weight of the unknown pressing down on him. Soraya sat in her usual chair, her hands resting lightly on her lap, her pale skin almost glowing in the dim light. "Are you ready?" she asked softly, her voice calm but filled with a hidden urgency. Daniel took a deep breath. He had spent the day thinking about what she had told him. Every moment replayed in his mind. The faint hum of her device, the gentle tug of energy when they first tried the sharing process, and her frail body regaining strength after his help. "Yes," he said. "I'm ready," Soraya nodded. "Good. Tonight we begin in earnest? The process will be longer. You may feel tired, but remember, it is not dangerous. Trust me, Daniel. Trust yourself." He swallowed, feeling a mix of fear and excitement. Helping her had become more than an act of kindness. It felt like stepping into a world larger than himself, one where humans could make a real difference. Soraya reached for the device she had brought the first night. It was a small silver instrument with soft, pulsing light. She placed it on the table between them. "This will regulate the flow. Watch the lights carefully. They tell you if it is too much or too little." Daniel watched the gentle pulses, feeling the subtle energy around them. He could sense Soraya's strength rising, almost like watching a small flame grow into a warm fire. "Close your eyes," Soraya said, "and focus. Let your energy flow naturally. Do not force it. Let it move like water," Daniel obeyed. He closed his eyes and felt the energy hum quietly around him. It was strange, not painful, not frightening, just alive. A subtle warmth traveled from his chest, and he could sense a faint connection, a bridge forming between him and Soraya. He felt her trembling slightly, her pulse weak at first. But as the energy moved, he sensed her strength returning. She was drawing life without harming him. The realization struck him. Humans truly were unique. Their resilience, their ability to share and endure, was unlike anything Soraya had ever encountered. Minutes passed, But Daniel did not notice the time. He was focused entirely on maintaining the flow, on keeping the process balanced and safe. He could feel exhaustion creeping in, muscles heavy, eyes drooping, but he pushed forward. "Good," Soraya whispered. "You are doing well, keep calm. You are stronger than you know." Her words gave him courage. It was not just her survival at stake. It was the beginning of a partnership, a trust that could transcend worlds. He realized that this act, simple as it seemed, was a bridge between humans and the unknown. When the process finally ended, Daniel opened his eyes, feeling drained but satisfied. Soraya looked radiant, her skin glowing, her eyes bright and clear. The exhaustion in her frame was gone. "You've done it," she said softly, almost in disbelief. "You saved me again." Daniel smiled faintly, though he could barely keep his eyelids open. "It wasn't hard," he said, though he knew it had required every ounce of focus he had. "You're strong, but your life matters. That's enough reason." Soraya's gaze lingered on him. "You understand the cost, Daniel. This is not a one-time thing. I will need your help repeatedly." "It is the only way I can survive." Daniel nodded. He did not fully understand what lay ahead, but he had made a choice. And once a choice was made, turning back was no longer an option. Over the following days, Daniel noticed subtle changes. His own body felt slightly lighter, his mind sharper. The energy sharing, while tiring in the moment, seemed to leave him more aware, more connected to the world around him. He could feel the rhythm of life, the heartbeat of the town, and even the quiet energy flowing through the walls of his own home. Soraya, in turn, regained her strength rapidly. She began showing him fragments of her knowledge. She had small devices, star charts, and records of her people's travels through the galaxy. "You must see," she said one afternoon, placing a glowing map on his table. "This is the path my people have traveled. Hundreds of planets, countless stars. Our knowledge is vast, but much of it is lost." Daniel's eyes widened. He had always been fascinated by space, but this was beyond imagination. Here was a real alien, sharing secrets of civilizations far older than humans, of stars humans had only dreamed of reaching. "Your species," Daniel began, unsure of what to say. "You've seen so much. You could be rulers of galaxies." Soraya's face darkened. "We were," she said quietly. "Once my people controlled entire sectors. But greed and fear brought hunters upon us. We were forced to scatter. Many of my kind are gone. I am one of the last who survived." Daniel felt a weight settle in his chest. He realized that survival was not just about feeding or energy. It was about history, loss, and endurance. Soraya's story was not only of herself, but of her entire civilization. "You are brave," he said finally. "Not because you fight, but because you survive. And yet, you still seek peace here." She smiled faintly. "Peace is rare, but humans, you give me hope. You are kind, strong, and resilient. That is why I came to you. You are not afraid of the unknown. You can face it with heart." Daniel felt an unfamiliar warmth. It was not romance, but something deeper, a recognition of connection, a bond formed between two beings from very different worlds. The next session of energy sharing was even more intense. Soraya guided him step by step, and Daniel focused on each pulse, each flow. He felt fatigue more strongly this time. His arms ached, his chest felt tight, yet he did not stop. He understood the price, the cost of helping her. But he also understood the reward, not just her survival, but the chance to touch a piece of the universe that no ordinary human would ever know. When it was over, Soraya collapsed slightly in her chair, her eyes closing in relief. Daniel rushed to her side. "You're okay?" he said, supporting her gently. "You're stronger now." She opened her eyes and looked at him. "It is because of you. Without your willingness, I would have faded long ago." Daniel shook his head. "We are partners in this. You survive, I survive, in a way. We both grow stronger." Soraya's lips curved in a faint smile. "Yes, perhaps that is what humans and my people share. The ability to connect, to endure together." But even as they rested, a quiet tension remained. Soraya's gaze occasionally drifted to the window, and Daniel noticed a flicker of worry in her expression. "There are hunters," she whispered one night as they prepared for sleep. "They will not leave me alone. They know I am here. And if they find me, they will not hesitate." Daniel's heart tightened. The quiet town, once so peaceful, now held invisible dangers he could not see. But he was not afraid. Not for himself, but for Soraya. He had chosen this path. He had made a promise, and promises he knew were stronger than fear. "I understand," he said quietly. "Whatever comes, we will face it together." Her eyes glimmered. "Thank you, Daniel. You are unlike any human I have ever met. Your courage, your heart, it may be the reason my species survives yet." The night settled in, calm and quiet, but Daniel knew the world had changed. He had crossed a threshold, stepping from an ordinary life into a realm where humans could touch the stars, could connect with the unknown, could shape the fate of beings beyond their planet. And in that quiet moment, as he watched Soraya finally rest peacefully, he realized something incredible. Humanity had power. Not just the power to fight, to survive, or to build, but the power to save, to endure, and to rise, even in the darkest of nights. The first steps were done. The price of survival was heavy, but it was a price Daniel was willing to pay. And the bond between him and Soraya had become more than survival. It was a bridge between worlds, a connection that could shape the future of both species. As dawn approached, Daniel looked out of his window, watching the sun touch the horizon. Somewhere in the stars, Soraya's people were still wandering, still struggling, and here on Earth he had become part of that story, part of something larger, something extraordinary. And he knew without doubt that the journey had only just begun. The quiet town had always been calm, almost sleepy at night. But that peace was about to end. Daniel sensed it before he even understood why. The air was thicker, heavier, as though something unseen was watching. He and Soraya had been preparing for this. After the last energy-sharing session, she had become stronger, but she had also grown more alert. Her pale eyes scanned the horizon frequently, and her ears seemed to catch sounds that Daniel could not hear. "They are coming," she said quietly one evening, her voice low but steady. Daniel turned to her, alarmed. "Who?" "The hunters," she replied. "They track my kind across galaxies. They believe we are dangerous, that we are predators. But they are wrong. They will not understand the truth." Daniel's heart pounded. He had thought the danger might remain distant in stories or in faraway skies, but now it had arrived at their doorstep. He looked around the quiet street outside, seeing nothing unusual. The town still seemed peaceful. "Why here?" he asked. "Why now?" Soraya's gaze was steady. "They know I am here because I drew energy. My presence cannot hide forever. Humans' energy is unique, and the hunters can sense it. They will come soon, and we must be ready." Daniel's mind raced. He had never faced anything like this. No matter how strange or unknown, he had believed in the quiet security of his town. Now that belief seemed fragile. "We need a plan," Daniel said. "We can't fight something we don't understand." Soraya nodded. "No, but we can use what we do know. Humans are clever. You will see how your species' strength can surprise even the most advanced hunters." Over the next few hours they prepared. Daniel brought what he could. Furniture moved to block doors, windows covered with blankets, and small tools gathered for defense. Soraya, in turn, revealed small alien devices, portable shields, sensors that glimmered softly, and energy pulses that could disorient any intruder. "This is not a battle of strength alone," she explained. "It is strategy. You must trust your instincts, Daniel. Humans are unpredictable. That is your power." Daniel studied the devices carefully. They were unlike anything he had ever handled, yet she guided him with patience. "The key," she said, "is cooperation. You think like a human. I act like my kind. Together we can turn their strength against them." Night fell, and with it the first signs of danger. Strange lights appeared in the distance, soft glowing but moving quickly toward the town. Daniel felt a chill. He had expected shadows, perhaps imagination, but this was real. "They are here," Soraya said. The lights moved silently at first, then grew brighter as they approached. Daniel could see faint silhouettes, tall, lean figures moving with precision. These were not human intruders. Their movements were too coordinated, too deliberate. "Stay close," Soraya whispered. "Follow my lead." "Do not panic," Daniel nodded, his body tense but determined. He felt a strange combination of fear and courage. This was no longer a story or a dream. It was reality, and the safety of their town and perhaps much more depended on their actions. The hunters reached the street outside Daniel's home. Their eyes glowed faintly, scanning the area for Soraya. She stepped forward slightly, her presence calm but commanding. "They will not understand mercy," she whispered. But they will understand humans' ingenuity. Daniel followed her lead. Using his knowledge of the town and the materials around them, he helped set traps. Furniture was moved to block certain streets while energy sensors from Soraya alerted them to any intruder moving too close. Small flares lit the night, casting shadows that confused the hunters. The first encounter was sudden. One hunter tried to advance through the street. Soraya used a small device, releasing a pulse of energy that made the hunter stumble and retreat. Daniel, watching closely, realized the pulse did not harm, but disrupted their coordination. "Humans," Soraya said softly, almost admiringly. "Your unpredictability is remarkable. You survive by thinking, not just fighting." Daniel's confidence grew. He could see that the hunters, though advanced and dangerous, were not invincible. Their technology was strong, but it lacked the ingenuity and adaptability of human minds. The battle continued for hours, though no one was truly harmed. They used strategy, energy pulses, and the environment itself, the narrow streets, the darkness, and the obstacles Daniel had created, to confuse and slow the hunters. Each small victory gave Daniel and Soraya more hope. During a pause, Soraya looked at him. "You see now, Daniel. Humans may seem fragile, but your species' greatest power is your heart and mind. You can endure, adapt, and overcome. This is why I came to you." Daniel nodded, catching his breath. "We can win this, can't we?" Soraya smiled faintly, though her eyes remained alert. "Yes, but we must be careful. They will not give up easily, and their next approach may be stronger." As the night deepened, Daniel felt something remarkable. Despite fear and exhaustion, he realized the truth of what she said. Humans were not just survivors. They could protect, strategize, and inspire courage in others, even aliens. The hunters, confused and disoriented by their combined tactics, began to retreat. Soraya used another energy pulse to guide them away from the town. The lights faded into the distance and the quiet streets returned. Daniel sank into a chair, exhausted but triumphant. "They're gone. For now," he said, though his voice trembled from adrenaline. Soraya knelt beside him, placing a gentle hand on his shoulder. "Yes, but this was only the beginning. There will be more challenges. You must be ready." Daniel looked at her, his resolve firm. "I will be ready. Whatever comes, we face it together." She nodded, her expression softening. "Your courage, your determination. It is more than survival. You show me why humans are respected across the stars. You remind me why my kind still hopes." The night passed in silence. Daniel and Soraya remained alert, though the immediate danger had subsided. Outside, the town slept peacefully, unaware of the battle that had occurred in its streets. Inside, a bond had formed, one not just of survival but of trust, courage, and partnership. By morning, the first rays of sunlight touched the town. Daniel looked out the window, watching the world awake. The battle had been won, but he knew it was only a beginning. Soraya's enemies were out there, still hunting, still waiting, yet he felt no fear. He had learned that humans were more than ordinary. They could face the unknown, protect those in need, and even challenge the might of alien hunters. Soraya stood beside him, her gaze toward the horizon. "The hunters will return," she said softly, "but we are ready. We have shown them the power of cooperation, of ingenuity, of human courage." Daniel felt a swelling pride. He realized something profound: survival was not enough. Humans could rise above fear, adapt to challenges, and protect the innocent. That was their true strength. And as the sun climbed higher, illuminating the quiet town, Daniel knew this was only the beginning of a greater journey, a journey where humans and aliens could stand together, face unimaginable threats, and prove that courage and compassion were the greatest powers of all. In that moment, he understood what Soraya had always believed. Humans were not fragile. They were resilient, brave, and capable of shaping destinies beyond their world, and together they would face whatever the galaxy had in store. The night was unusually quiet. The town slept peacefully, unaware of the battle that had already occurred or the greater one that was about to come. Daniel stood at the window, watching the dark horizon. The hunters were out there, regrouping, planning their next move. He could feel it in the stillness of the air, the subtle vibration that Soraya had taught him to notice. "They will return," Soraya whispered behind him. Her voice was calm, but her eyes reflected caution. "Stronger this time. They will not leave until they have found me, or you." Daniel turned to face her. He had come a long way from the man who had opened his door at midnight to a desperate neighbor. Now he understood that survival was not only about strength, it was about courage, cleverness, and heart. "We'll face them," he said firmly. "And we will win," Saraya nodded. "Yes, but we must use everything we have learned. The hunters are powerful, but they are not prepared for humans' unpredictability." Together, they set to work. Daniel moved furniture and supplies, creating strategic barriers and vantage points throughout the house. Saraya placed her alien devices carefully. Small shields that could block attacks, sensors that detected movement, and energy pulses that could disorient even the strongest hunters. "This is more than defense," she explained. "It is strategy. Humans survive because you think beyond instinct. You see possibilities, alternatives, paths that others cannot. That is your greatest strength." Daniel watched her closely, learning every movement, every adjustment she made. The bond between them had grown stronger with every shared experience, every act of trust. Now it would be tested in full. The first sign of the hunters came as distant lights glowing softly in the night sky. Daniel felt a chill, but he stood firm. The creatures descended with speed and precision, moving through the trees and empty streets with almost unnatural coordination. "They are here," Saraya said calmly. "Remember everything I taught you. Stay alert." The hunters approached the house, scanning for signs of life. Daniel could feel the tension coiling in his stomach, but he focused on the strategy. Using the environment to their advantage, he activated a sequence of barriers and distractions they had set up. Furniture toppled to block paths. Soft lights blinked from Saraya's devices, creating confusing shadows and illusions. The hunters paused, momentarily uncertain. Their eyes glowed faintly, scanning the area. They were powerful, intelligent, and relentless, but not human. They could not anticipate the creativity and unpredictability of someone who had grown up solving problems without technology or alien knowledge. Daniel seized the moment. He led the hunters into the streets where their movements could be limited by narrow paths and obstacles. Saraya supported him, using her energy pulses to confuse and slow them. Together they were a team, human ingenuity paired with alien skill. One hunter tried to bypass a barrier, moving quickly and silently. Saraya released a small energy pulse and the hunter stumbled, disoriented but unharmed. Daniel, thinking quickly, used ropes and pulleys to create a makeshift trap. The hunter tripped, and the group retreated slightly, giving Daniel and Saraya the advantage. "You see?" Saraya whispered, her eyes glinting. "This is why humans are respected. You survive by thinking, not just fighting." Daniel smiled faintly, though his body ached from exhaustion. "We have to keep going. They won't stop until they succeed." The battle continued, a mix of strategy, improvisation, and careful coordination. Daniel realized something remarkable. Humans were more than strong. They were resilient, adaptable, and clever. The hunters were powerful, but they could not match the unpredictability and resourcefulness of a determined human mind. Hours passed, and the hunters began to falter. Their precision was disrupted by the barriers, energy pulses, and clever traps Daniel and Saraya had set up. One by one, the hunters withdrew, retreating to regroup. They had underestimated the humans' ingenuity and courage. Daniel felt a surge of pride. "They're retreating," he said, breathing heavily. "We've done it." Saraya stood beside him, her expression softening. "Yes, but this is only the beginning. They will learn from this. And when they return, we must be ready again." Daniel nodded, understanding the weight of her words. But he also understood something deeper. Humans were capable of more than mere survival. They could protect, strategize, and inspire courage in others, even aliens. As dawn approached, the first rays of sunlight touched the quiet town. Daniel and Saraya stood together, looking out at the horizon. The streets were calm, the houses silent, as if nothing had happened. But they knew the truth. A victory had been won, but it was also a lesson. "You've shown them the power of humans," Saraya said softly. "Not just your strength, but your heart, your mind, your courage. You have proven that your kind can endure, adapt, and rise to challenges beyond your world." Daniel looked at her, feeling a mixture of exhaustion and triumph. "I didn't do this alone," he said. "We worked together. That's why we survived." She smiled faintly, a mixture of relief and admiration. "Perhaps that is the lesson my kind has forgotten. Power alone does not last. It is cooperation, trust, and courage that ensure survival." Daniel realized she was right. Humans in their ordinary lives faced challenges that required patience, creativity, and heart. And in this extraordinary moment, those same qualities had made them victorious against beings far stronger and faster than themselves. The hunters had retreated, but the threat remained. Yet Daniel did not feel fear. He had learned that courage, ingenuity, and compassion were greater than any physical strength. He had proven that humans could rise above fear, protect the innocent, and face the unknown with determination. "Daniel," Saraya said, her voice quiet but firm, "you have shown me something I feared was lost. Humanity has power not just to survive but to shape destiny. You have reminded me why my kind still hopes, why the universe has not forgotten your species." Daniel nodded. "We will be ready for whatever comes next. Together." She reached out and placed a gentle hand on his shoulder.
"Yes, together we will face the stars and whatever challenges they hold."
"And perhaps humanity will earn a place among them, not through conquest but through courage, heart, and wisdom." The sun rose fully, painting the sky in gold and pink. Daniel and Saraya stood side by side, two beings from very different worlds united by trust, courage, and a shared purpose. The town remained quiet, peaceful, unaware of the extraordinary events that had occurred. Daniel knew this night would change everything. He had learned that humans were not fragile. They were resilient, brave, and capable of acts that could touch the stars. And he had seen firsthand how courage and cooperation could overcome even the most advanced threats in the galaxy. Saraya looked at him, her eyes filled with gratitude and hope. "You gave me life, Daniel. But more than that, you showed me why your kind will never be forgotten in the stars." Daniel smiled. "And you reminded me that survival is more than staying alive. It is about protecting, helping, and rising to challenges together." As they watched the town awaken under the morning light, Daniel felt a sense of peace. The hunters had been driven away, at least for now. Saraya had survived, and humanity's courage had been proven, not just to the alien hunters but to the universe itself. The future was uncertain, and the galaxy full of unknown dangers. But Daniel knew that whatever came next, humans could face it with strength, heart, and wisdom. And in that knowledge he found hope that would carry him, and perhaps all of humanity, into a brighter, extraordinary future. Together, Daniel and Saraya had survived the night. Together they had shown that humans were not ordinary, and together they would face the stars.